CBS News senior national security correspondent Charlie D'Agata joins us now from the Pentagon. Charlie, I outlined some of the conditions of the deal. Can you just elaborate on what the specifics are and why this will take 10 days to start implementing?
Yeah, it really comes down to logistics, okay, because there's an area that the Israeli military have got to pull out of. They reached the Litani River today for the first time in 20 years. That's not only symbolic, but it's a sort of geographical locator for us. It's about a 20-mile buffer zone between where Hezbollah has now been pushed back to the Lebanese border with Israel. For the time, it's going to take at least 10 days for Israeli forces to sort of peel back out of that area, because then forces from the Lebanese army will fill that void. About 5,000 soldiers were told by U.S. officials, but that's going to take some time because of the dynamics of Lebanon itself. Hezbollah has essentially been running that country, right? But the Lebanese army is still there. They haven't really had the sort of strength or fortitude or stomach to take on Hezbollah, but they will have to take over that area. So that's going to take some time. We've even spoken to people here that there is a U.S. element there that we may be looking forward to in the future in terms of training the Lebanese army to take over that responsibility. But the Israelis are kind of really putting a lot of dependence on the LAF to hold that territory. But they have made very clear, Prime Minister Netanyahu has already made clear if there are any infractions, they will retaliate. So they want to keep that area clear. So that's why it's going to take some time. That 10 days is just the beginning. It's going to take about 60 days for this entire ceasefire to adhere.
What happens between now and those 10 days?
Well, now we'll see. Well, first of all, I think we have to point out that immediate is immediate, right? This is going to be the end of hostilities. And that's the most important thing, because you've seen and we've talked about it, we've seen over the past few days, the heavy bombardment in areas of Beirut and parts of Lebanon by the Israeli military. Hezbollah has been firing rockets straight into northern Israel. So that will come to an end. But then we will see Israeli forces pull back from that area. Remember, they fought their way in. It's not a sort of a traditional fight and hold territory. It was in order to push Hezbollah back to that Litani River. So they will eventually and gradually start pulling back Israeli forces. And then, again, this is something you can't do overnight. They're going to have to move 5,000 or so Lebanese soldiers into that area and take up those posts. And it is a pretty big area. It's a 20-mile strip. And there will have to be sort of combat outposts, et cetera. We're not entirely sure there's going to be a UN UNIFIL that will be part of that. But how much of that area is going to have to be policed, as it were? It really has to do with Hezbollah adhering to the terms of the ceasefire and not going into that territory.
Charlie, what does this mean for the region?
It's hard to tell, because we first of all have to consider where Iran plays in all of this. Iran being Hezbollah's patron, they will have been informed of this. They may have been informing Hezbollah how to react. We also have to remember that Hezbollah leadership has been eradicated from the top down. The question is what sort of impact will this have on Gaza with Israel's fight with Hamas? And again, quoting Prime Minister Netanyahu, said now we can shift our focus to Gaza. He says that Hezbollah has, for all intents and purposes, been defeated. So in practical terms, it's hard to tell, because in shifting the resources of the Israeli military that had been fighting on a battle on two fronts since a year ago, October, there will be more resources and more intent, but I think there will be more of an impetus and more of an attention now to say, okay, Israel, you've finished that fight with Hezbollah. Now let's focus on finishing this fight in Gaza, because we've seen tens of thousands of people killed there. The humanitarian crisis is just hard to watch, and I think the world would like to see an end to that fight. And maybe now the shift will not be distracted by Hezbollah's part of this, but Gaza itself. And as Prime Minister Netanyahu, I don't know why I keep saying that, Prime Minister Netanyahu pointed out, Hamas no longer has Hezbollah as a benefactor, right? So they're no longer part of this, fighting on behalf of Hamas. This is over, and they can focus on the defeat of Hamas in Gaza.
All right, Charlie, I'm sure we'll be talking to you throughout the afternoon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.